Konnichiwa. Welcome to the Marshall Maze. I'm with my partner in crime, Barack Chidoshi.
And I'm with my partner here, Israel Lopez Sensei.
Oh man, we are one day away from the Marshall Maze Awards. Barack Chidoshi, are you ready?
I don't know, man. I mean, I'm a bit overwhelmed.
Well, I am too. There's a lot going on. I haven't lost my voice. So much talking going on lately. Don't know how I feel about all of it, but we're doing a thing. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
that's
I
all we
mean,
can say.
yes, it is all we can say. It's all we can do. All right, so today's discussion is we're gonna talk a little bit about some of the dogma in the martial arts and kind of see where we are with that. Um, I it's just kind of came up because we were talking about it earlier, and one of the things that when we talk about dogma, for those that don't know, these are certain beliefs and things. Like if you're a Catholic Christian, there was a really good movie with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. Am I ruining his name? Ben Affleck and Chris Rock and a whole host of folks, and it's called Dogma.
Right.
And then they kind of get into the whole thing with Jesus, this, that, and the third. And I would tell you one of the worst things that ever happened to me growing up as a young man. One of the things that rocked my faith to the core is when I found out that Santa Claus wasn't real.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it really did. It traumatized the hell out of me. Um, and I say this simply because it. I don't think as parents we question when we raise our kids up with those kind of beliefs and those belief systems because the how that affects a child, right? Or
Right.
just even and this makes sense. I know there's somebody somewhere going, "What the hell is Lopez Sensei talking about?" But this makes sense by way of where my parents might say to you that Israel was a difficult child, this, that, and the third. Well, I don't know. I got plenty presents growing up. So in my mind, I'm like, y'all have it wrong. I'm
Right.
misunderstood because Santa Claus is always generous.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right. Right.
saying? And stuff like that. So and then when you find out that you had been being lied to this whole time, the magic. And think about what happens. Anybody with kids understands what I'm saying. Even if you don't have kids, think about just even when you're around it, that magic that we know of, that magic, and that's faith, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's faith. So this circling back and why this makes so much sense is Barakula Shidoshi decided to talk to me today as we were setting up equipment. We're doing our thing, and he's telling me about some of the truths that we had clinged to back in the day and how it was just structure, the proper structure of a technique, and it was passed off as what we say was chi. I'll use my chi, and you can't bend my wrist, or you can do this, or you can do that, and it and where one would say, well, no, there's chi. I learned qigong, but I have Israel. I've learned qigong,
Mhm.
and but I also say that spirit, that energy is also clung to a faith. And when I remember when that was rock for me, when Bareki Sensei explained to me why I couldn't bend his arm when he was doing the technique, and then he gave me the science behind it. Completely destroyed me.
Uh-huh.
Completely destroyed me. What say you, sir? Because you brought it up today, so I feel like you're the reason why this topic's happening.
Well, it's all about motivation to get you motivated to pursue that, that endeavor. And so we do that. It's part of society. It's part of how we came up. Every culture has something, whether it's the boogeyman, whether it is karma. We all hear these stories that kind of keep us on track,
Mm,
all right, from doing this or doing that. And so, when you hear these and you truly believe it, because it's all about the source.
it is all about the
Yeah, where
source.
does it come
Yes, it's all
from?
about the source. Yeah, no, I hear
Yeah,
you.
where does it come from? Is it from someone you truly, truly respect? And if it's from someone you truly respect, you're gonna lend an ear.
Hmm.
And so a lot of us we fall victim to that, in good and bad things,
Oh,
because
I'm gonna change the angle of the camera so
yeah,
folks can kind of see more. I understand I'm a
yeah,
big dude, but
yeah.
damn. All right, go ahead.
So it, for good or bad,
Uh-huh.
because I have had folks that believed something that was completely false, but it made them a better person.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, I
Uh,
mean,
uh, uh, you understand where I'm going?
that's why. Well, that's why I
Whether
bring.
you are an alcoholic
Well, that's why
or
I
a
bring.
drug addict,
Well,
and
no, I feel like there's a lot that goes in the serenity prayer. I'm a huge fan of the serenity
right,
prayer.
right, right.
Don't break
But
my
no,
faith on
no,
that
no,
one.
no, no. But
Back away from me,
no,
Satan.
no, no. I'm not talking about that. But what I'm saying is that there's a lot of positivity in that,
Mm,
and so it derails you. It makes you take another path, and so these are good things.
mm.
So within faith in religious practices, it's to get you to ponder on the other, to think intelligently, critically, like playing a semantic game, and just to get you to think a little bit deeper on what you are doing. But the problem is that it depends on the source
Uh,
and whether they are pinning it as actual reality.
well, that's so that goes into the whole thing with dogma. I mean, like, so you're being told this whole time, and you have the belief system that's built up on this is me utilizing chi. This is this is that, and then the science says no. And more importantly, you knew the whole time that it wasn't. So when I say how it rocks your faith, it's kind of like finding out there's no Santa Claus.
No,
Because either one or two things I believe happens, right? Either I hear what you're saying, and as a student, I process it, and as a secret thing, right? And then we go, okay, all right, oh, but there is chi, right? Because you've instilled enough in me, and I have a belief in myself. Because again, what is chi, right?
mhm.
What is like what is the force, or
Right,
what is spirituality? I
right.
can't hold it, I can't touch it, I can't feel it. I can't see it.
It's not
You know what I'm
tangible.
saying? It's not tangible. Well, it's out there. The verdict's out there on whether or not you can see it. But with that being said, it's right up there with so chi and the utilization of chi, right? And how I visualize chi, how I bring it in. It makes a figure eight through my body. It holds and where I hold it. I got two chakras, one here, one there, one in the middle, and how it rolls through my body, but it rolls through, and I'm visualizing all of this, right? When I'm, but is that just in my head? Because
Yeah, it starts and see, the Chinese already spoke about this, the yi, the li, the lang, and so that you have the three minds.
uh-huh.
All right, you got your mental, you got your heart, and then you have the dantian, or in Japanese, tanden.
Okay.
All right, and so each one corresponds with each other. So it's very important to incorporate all these different aspects. But let's bring it back a little bit. When we talk about beliefs, we're not necessarily. I mean, being someone that has been misguided is another thing,
Hmm.
and then there's another thing where you like you said, well, you knew it was bull crap.
Yeah.
All right, we're talking about the person. No, it's pure, it's real. All right, and so yes, what the mind thinks, the
Hmm.
body follows.
Hmm.
All right, it follows suit with that. So in your mind, if you believe, well, hey, and this is the reality check once again, what reality are you living in? If you
Hmm.
want to be a snake charmer, and you want to dabble with snakes, and then one bites you and it's a poisonous snake, and you have the faith of believing that the poison will not harm you because I have belief.
Well, that's what I'm
All
saying.
right,
So, I mean, going back to, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find,
what are you doing?
I'm trying to find my phone because I wanted to add something in, and I normally use it to take notes. Aha,
There you
I
go.
found it.
Okay. So what basically what I'm saying is that the power is definitely in the mind. And
Okay.
wherever the mind is, the body follows. All right? That's the headquarters.
Mhm.
All right? And so there are many people around the world that are able to do amazing feats that the average person couldn't do because of their conditioning, their mental fortitude. And so these things take long periods of time.
Okay.
But there are physics and hacks and things like that, where we can pull off something to make us seem more mystical
Yes.
than what you truly are. All right. And so, with that being said, you're a charlatan.
Well, that's so
Uh,
that's what I'm saying to you.
it's
So ultimately, I'm trying to type real quick, and I'm really not good at this part. As there's people who may be tuning into this, because we're live streaming it, and hopefully the audio is good. I'm hoping the audio is good.
Well, if it's not, please someone say
Yeah, please
something.
someone say something, but like, hey, brother, we can't hear you in the back. Um, but that, I guess that's what I'm talking about. I mean, your faith in a way gets rocked, in like the same way I learned that there was no Santa Claus, and that really did it. I don't think people appreciate how much as a child that disrupts you. You know what I'm saying? And stuff like so. For some kids, it's not a one size fits all. Some kids, they took that information and they said, "Okay,
I
there's
really
no
didn't
Santa
care,
Claus." That
but it
well,
rocks you different.
oh, because again, what it did for me is it took away the magic.
Hmm.
So even when I raised
Yeah,
my kids on it, so folks say, "Well, where's your spirituality? Aren't you Jewish?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I still gave the kids that.
right,
Why? Because it's the magic.
right. It's
In
tradition.
well, it wasn't tradition.
But
It was magic.
I know, but it's part of the tradition.
Yeah, but there are many traditions. I mean, we could have just celebrated Hanukkah. There's Kwanzaa, there's other things, this, that, and the third. Why Christmas? Because of the magic, because of the all those things that I remember growing up, the myths. Right. The reason why so many folks, and I know you're probably going to smack me here on the show, ladies. If you want to tune in for me to get smacked, just wait for I say this part. The ninja. And this is why I'm allowed to get smacked. It's the ninja. We were fascinated with the ninja based upon this lore, this myth, this things that I mean, the science, we weren't stupid as kids. We understood, but it was the belief, the faith in, and if I took this smoke, I disappear. The reason why I love sleight of hand magic so much is on those movies.
Hmm.
Like being able to,
Yeah.
even if I could do just that little. Now I know that I'm really palming it, or that I'm slipping it in my sleeve, and I'm really just moving fast, so fast, so faster than the eye can see. So I distract you here, so you miss what's happening here, and then bam.
Yeah.
And so, but if you don't know those things, what do you see?
No, you see exactly what you see. Seeing is believing.
Yeah, it's the magic.
All right. It's seeing is believing. Have you seen Santa?
Well, yeah, well, yes. Well, no, but even with
Have
that,
you seen
well, no,
Santa?
going, no,
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 you
no,
haven't. For all
no,
those
no, no,
years,
no, but I
you
did.
you seen him eat the cookie,
No, no, well, the cookies were eaten.
and the milk was.
The
But you
milk was
witnessed.
drunk. The
No,
cookie
no,
was
but
eaten.
you witnessed it.
Well, yeah, we did. Well, so my mother went all out. She'd have somebody who actually was in the house in a Santa suit, just in
Oh,
case our
oh.
asses weren't. You don't remember any
Well,
of
no,
this?
no, no, no. I wasn't down there. It was probably around when I was asleep. But
This is 127
yeah,
Jefferson Ave stuff I'm talking about right now.
but no, no,
Mhm.
no. I was on the other floor.
Yeah, yeah, sound
Yeah,
like yeah.
I was brother man
Or
on the
it could,
third
well,
floor.
listen, but bro, it could be a figment of my
But
imagination, but I remember that happening.
no, but the point is that that's why a lot of cultures actually have festivals for this, to relive this, to instill the belief that this is what it is. All right. And
Yes.
so that's the whole point, to have these images or these fetishes. All right. And so people believe in the image. When you
Mhm.
can see the image, when you can see the fetish, and when I say fetish, I'm talking about African deities,
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, no, I
sculptures,
hear you.
things
I
of
hear what
that
you're saying.
sort.
Yeah.
Not a particular like fetish in something.
Mhm.
Um, but when you see this, and then you see the person that is orchestrating all of this, it does become magical. That's the whole point.
Mhm.
All right. For you to believe in something, everything is ritualistic. Your church, whatever you believe in, masjid, synagogue, whatever high holy days, whatever it is that gets people to follow that particular path, there has to be something there that actually gets you to be like, hey, that makes absolute
Well, I mean,
sense.
I like to say it's a belief in something bigger than oneself. That is faith.
Right.
So you can have faith in a lot of things. And in the martial arts, we do.
And you can be raised in it.
What? But that's
And
what.
that's a
But
tough
no, but
one.
no, but see,
That's tougher.
being raised in something doesn't necessarily mean you have faith in it. It just means this is where I was raised. How many times have you heard somebody say that? This is the way I was raised, but I don't really necessarily subscribe
Yeah,
to this.
that no, we're talking about someone who definitely, we're not talking about the part-time Christian or the part-time anything. We're talking about someone who was raised as a child and still continues this till this day,
Yeah, but that's
and they believe.
but that's the difference, though. I guess that's the point I'm making to you. It's a belief, and that belief is held personally.
Yes.
Like, so my belief in Santa and all of that stuff wasn't just reinforced, it was reinforced by my parents, but all the other things that took place around me in my universe, right? Remember, think about the snow coming down, all the lights on everybody's house, cocoa, this, that, and the third, like everything what they call the Christmas spirit, right?
Right.
And stuff like that. And so it gives you all, why I call it the Coca-Cola spirit. Even with that, understanding that
Right.
the reason why Santa's red is because of Coca-Cola. The reason why
Uh-huh.
Santa's big is because of Coca-Cola.
Uh-huh.
Can't wait for this new Christmas movie coming out with The Rock, by the way. But I guess so. If you're tuning in, we are talking about dogma, and there's plenty of dogma in martial arts. Um, None more prevalent than, or none more relevant than the term ninja, right? Because that's a Chinese term. It's not even
Yes.
Japanese, right?
Right.
Even though we're talking about Japanese, right?
Right.
It's shinobi,
Right.
right? If I'm not
Yes.
mistaken.
Correct.
This that's your back. This is your background, right? I
Yes.
mean,
Yes.
your neck of the woods here. Um, but the myths and the things that with the dogma around being the ninja, even right now, there's somebody somewhere in Narutoing that shit, right? I'm all the fingers,
Well, no, these are
right?
no. That's very real. All right, that's very real. That's one.
But we
There's
know,
fact mixed in with
but
the
that's I guess that's what I'm saying to you. So,
fiction.
but so we have the dogma, right?
Right.
And then there's the people that fake the dogma and
Yeah.
that they somehow know it, they magically gleamed it and stuff like that. And then there's the people that know. And they're like, yeah, Ren. Well, I'm not even gonna try saying half this because that's him. That's him. Barakulat Shidoshi does the shinobi jitsu. I'm just judo jitsu and some, well, a whole lot of Okinawa martial art. But
Listen, correction. I teach bujutsu. Okay, I teach bujutsu and taijutsu, Japanese jujutsu. Shinobi jutsu, I don't really get into unless you are on the black belt level, and then we'll explore that. But that has nothing to do with actual hand to hand combatives. That's a whole different military strategy.
and I can't say this enough. If you're tuning in, we are live. We're
Yes.
live because we're getting ready for the Maze Awards tomorrow.
Yes. Oh,
Right now, we're burning the candle from both ends because, like anyone who's ever done a tournament or hosted an event knows that the day before, everything that could go wrong is going
it's
wrong.
gonna happen. It's gonna
I
happen.
haven't done my hair yet. I'm gonna have extensions. I was going to do like some weave or something like that. But we still need to do the podcast because
Yeah.
I mean my last episode, well, the last episode was
Yeah.
me by myself,
Mhm.
and that was just weird, you
No,
know.
no, no. I think
Uh,
that it's a very good thing what you're doing, because I want folks to be able to hear our individual thoughts. So for you to come out and to do an episode without me, that's great. And then I have to meet that in kind and do the same
yeah,
with all
well,
my
I
thing.
told you
And
before. Yeah,
then
you
we
need to.
come
Yes,
together, and that's
even though
how
I'm
we
gonna say
keep it
there's a
going.
psychiatrist somewhere going, no, we do not want to be in that man's head ever again. That's just a bad place.
Listen, the minefield is where you learn all of your tactical strategies. Either you die or you survive.
That is true. That is true.
And that's it.
Well, I'm like,
That's it.
hey, welcome, Brian, man. We like that you're tuning into the maze. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, this is what we do, brother. This is what
Yes.
we do.
Yes.
But so again, we are talking about dogma. We are talking about martial dogma, even though I bringing it back to things that folks. So it all depends on where you picked up your martial journey from. So a lot of times I'll go back and forth between something that I think everybody can get and then bring it back to martial arts. So that's why I'm talking about Christmas and not not talking about anything else. Yeah, like or bringing
Well,
it back
well,
to the martial arts.
what
So
I like to say is this: just like everything we grow up. I mean, as we grow up, and whatever we put, choose to study in life, whether your parents are teaching you something or whether you're learning outside of your family, um, we hear a lot of stories about a lot of things. All right.
mhm.
And so you have to learn to separate fact and fiction. And so sometimes we can get really wrapped up in the fiction of things. and we have to learn, like, it the fiction has its purpose. When I tell stories to my students about, how should I say, all right, here's a story, and I'm not going to go too deep into it, but you had two brothers that really didn't get along with each other.
Mm,
And so the father passed away and gave both of them his inheritance. And so the older brother just took the whole pie
yeah.
and was like, "You move off the farm. All right. I don't even want you here anymore."
Mm,
All right. And he couldn't do anything. His brother was bigger, stronger, more athletic, couldn't do a doggone thing. Anytime he tried to stand up to his brother, he would get beat down.
okay.
So he left the land. He had no choice but to leave the land. He found a Sifu, and he brought this dilemma to his Sifu.
Hmm.
And his Sifu was like, huh, so that's why you want to learn martial arts.
Okay.
And so what he had him do was he said, "You see that calf right there?
Hmm.
You see that little willow tree? Pick up the calf, walk over the willow tree, just kind of hop over it, and then hop back and keep doing that." And so this was the introduction into his martial training.
Okay.
He thought of it as very odd. He's like,
Yeah.
pick,
No.
pick
No.
up
I
a
get it.
calf and go over the willow tree. And so he kept doing that, and the tree kept growing. And then he kept doing it again and again and again and again. And the tree got big. The calf got big and turned into a cow. And then he was like, yo, when he was moving this animal over, and so now see, and then he said, Sifu, when are you going to teach me anything? And he
Mhm.
said, no, you're good to go now. So he was like, no, what do you mean I'm good to go now? He's like, no, you know enough now. So go and confront your brother. So what did he do? He went and confronted his brother. He went on the farm. And his brother said, what are you doing here? And he ran at him. And so he ran. His younger brother moved the cow and ran towards him with the cow. And his brother said, oh, shit. Right? And
Okay.
he ran back in the house. Now, eventually, he got the property and was able to kick his brother off.
All right.
And so it's little things like that. And this is just a story. This is not real. None of this is real. But
Okay.
what it is to motivate you once again into doing the right things. Why are you here in the first place? So we use these little stories to play with.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So here's the
Go
thing.
ahead.
We have a question from man, I'm really bad with names and I don't want to butcher it. Ali.
Ali.
Am I saying that correctly? Aylil. Am
Yeah,
I
I
okay?
say, yeah.
Yeah. Hey man, how you doing?
How you doing?
All right. So you're asking as a biblical theorist and massive martial arts fan, I can't believe in Putinism and certain martial arts. So I think we've covered this in the past. That kind of so combatives is combatives is combatives. So I'll be the first one to ever say
Hmm.
that to you. Like fighting is fighting. Fighting doesn't care if you're a good person or a bad person,
Right.
right? When it comes to taking one, to doing that kind of the deed, this, that, and the third, getting into some shit for real. Look, man, you got to be able to make peace with your maker, and that's that. You know what I'm saying? So when we have things that help us balance ourselves out, and I would tell you from my experience having that spirituality will do that. Now there's you got to keep in mind that the folks of the time, depending on where you're picking your martial system from, some of them were Buddhist monks, others but Buddha Harama, that he was from India.
Hmm.
So you got to think of what he was working with. And that, like, I would tell you even now in a more contemporary sense. Look, man, I'm like, I can't really speak for Barack, but I'm Jewish. Hebrew. You know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. So I mean, I'm praying to Adonai. That's my spirituality side of things. But when it comes to my acts of violence, you know what I'm saying. I mean, well, first and foremost, I'm always trying to live my life in such a way where violence misses me. But on the off chance, you know what I'm saying, I'm practicing. look, I'm gonna go hamburger. I mean, well, there's no other way about it, right? And stuff like that. So I mean, that I think those two things should be considered to be separate. I don't know, Brock. What's your thoughts?
I would tell you this. All right, when we are because I'm Japanese based. All right, the samurai. What religious practice was the samurai during the warring period, or not even religious practice, more spiritual practice, esoteric practice.
Hmm.
All right. Um, so there's a practice. It wasn't Zen. It wasn't any of those. That Zen Buddhism was merged into Buddha, and this took place much later on. All right, more like and this is just, I don't have the accurate numbers,
Hmm.
but let's just say more closer. I would say the 1800s or so. Um, but it was Mikyo. Mikyo was a practice among the people at that time in Shintoism. Okay. So we're talking about how the average person lived at that time and the practices that they have rehearsed over and over and over again. Like you were talking about the Kujien, and that's the finger weaving. All right. And you have
I say he's using the
and you
proper
have
terminology. I
Kujikiri.
I, I butcher
Yeah.
this all day long.
Yeah. You have Kujikiri and Kujien. And so this is all part of Minkyo. And so this was the common practice of samurai during that time. They didn't have time to do Zen Buddhism. Absolutely not. Who can get singleness and oneness in the time of war? It
Yeah.
just didn't happen. It didn't happen that way. So these were more indigenous folk spirituality that was native to those lands. And so anytime you're doing a martial art, when you say it's an art, it incorporates culture, the history, the language, the values, the etiquette, all that comes into art. Now, let's press on to something else that is tied into it. You have combatives, which all of it falls under the combative category, and then
Mhm.
you have martial arts. A lot of combatives get lumped into being martial arts.
Mm.
All right, and
Okay.
they
All right.
don't,
That's
because
that's
there's
profound. That's
yeah,
profound. Go ahead. Go ahead.
there's a different category, and most people don't understand that. You have civilian combatives,
Mhm.
and then you have martial arts, meaning it was derived from war. And so, if your art did not come from war, it's not a martial art.
Oh. I'm
and,
like,
but
oh.
but we lump it all in there. You know,
Well, yeah, because again,
we
yes,
lump
yes,
it up in
yes.
it. Once again, it's beliefs and what has been taught to you, and
Well,
so
again, the theme of today, martial dogma. I'm
right,
like,
and you get it taught, and it's all lumped in. So, for instance, right, and this is semantics, and we're just playing this game. All right, Budo, Budo. Mean Bu is martial do's way. This is our way to understand it. Anytime you have something said in Japanese or in another language, you can make approximations of what it means in
well, yeah,
another
because you're trying to
language.
translate it,
Yeah, in the
yes,
best way,
to the best
because
way you know
it's
how.
more
Yeah.
feeling. And if you're not that person, if you're not Japanese, Chinese, or any of them, I don't care what culture you come from, even being Caribbean, African American, there's certain things that we say that you just won't get because you're not a part of that culture. You weren't raised in that.
Yo, listen, we talk about that with slang all the time. I'm
Right.
like, there are folks that just don't get it. Case in point, the term woke. Don't
Yeah.
get me going.
and so you weren't raised in it, but when we have some kind of a baseline translation, that's what we use as our kind of goalposts.
Hmm.
And so when we look at, for instance, Budo, and Bujutsu is not Budo, but Budo holds the essence of Bujutsu. Okay, two different worlds, but one in the same. One was in the warring period, one was outside the warring period.
Okay.
All right, so the arts have transformed. All right, because now we're in a period of peace, so we don't need to wear this or do that. So etiquette, a lot of things transform. Now, it makes sense that anything that's considered Buddha would have to be Japanese based only. Okay, it can't be outside of Japan.
Mm.
All right. So Chinese martial arts wouldn't be considered Budo. No, that's Chinese martial arts
Uh-huh.
or Chinese combatives, and so on and so forth with any martial tradition or system, I should say. So when we talk about controversial topic, karate. Is karate Budo? Because it wasn't derived out of war. Judo is, Aikido is.
Well, we
Uh,
already know karate is as we know it is no, it's a sport. It was
no,
a
no.
sport version of doing something that was
But
combative.
what I'm talking about is that when karate was introduced to Japan,
Yes.
all right, we know that karate comes from Okinawa, but now it's under the Budo title. And
Mm.
so that's why they call it karate do.
Well,
And they
yeah. I mean,
changed it.
obviously they're trying to make it away, but here, I mean, ultimately, this is so you have is it Funakoshi?
Yeah, get you from the
Yeah,
country.
Funakoshi Gensen, and again, it was some they were looking for something to compete with boxing, at that at the time. So they got this and they said this will be our thing. This is our sport. So at that point, I would tell you, or I would say to you, um, that's when karate or the sport of karate was developed, but it stopped being a combative system and became more of a sport.
So that what I'm saying is this, right? When Funakoshi Genshin was introducing karate do to or karate or te or Okinawa te
Well, yeah, I mean,
or
yes,
Okinawa
yes,
te to Japan, all right, he had to he was savvy about it, okay, and because everything in Japan is considered to be a jutsu,
yeah, but
and
that's what I'm
so
saying.
he called
Yeah.
it karate jutsu, not because it was grappling or any. No, it was because jutsu means art, skill, or
Yes.
in that. So this is karate jutsu to make sense to the Japanese. This is what this is. Now, being that it was now Japanese have taken hold to this, and we have Shotokan karate.
Yes.
All right. Now it goes under the classic, the category of Budo. All
Mhm.
right. And so that's perfectly fine because the Japanese have adopted it. And so now they call it a do because now during that time it was about being better people. And this is when it became philosophical.
Well, yeah,
Uh, but
yes,
back when it was bujutsu, there was no philosophy
yes.
or any of that. It was about war. And
I
so it was an entirely different thing. But
I agree.
once again, beliefs will have you think something different.
Yes. And if you're just tuning in, I know some more people just tuned into us. We're talking about dogma. I said it right.
Yeah,
Dogma.
dogma.
Dogma in the martial arts, and how that could rock someone's faith, especially when you find out something, belief or a myth or whatever you want to call it, and you find out, well, the science, there's the science behind it, and it kind of ruins your faith in a way, right? It
Mhm.
takes a little faith from you, and it really does.
It
And so,
does.
so we had a gentleman who asked, because we're live, right? This is, well, we haven't done a live episode
No,
in a
no,
long
no.
ass
This,
time, right?
yeah, it's been a
So,
while.
so in a live episode, we can we're real
We're
time. I mean, yeah,
interacting.
we're interacting with you. Somebody asked a question, we were giving an answer to the best of our ability. Barack is very knowledgeable about a plethora of things, all things Japanese, which is weird
Not
because,
all things,
well,
but
no, which is well, with some of the stuff we grew up with, where I'm more knowledgeable about the judo jitsu. When I say jitsu, I'm referring to jujutsu,
yeah,
which is a Japanese origin, and Okinawa-te, because that's my stock and trade. And then all things fighting, I guess,
yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
general,
yeah.
because
That's what it is.
brother got around, I guess. I don't know. I'm saying.
Yeah,
I don't want to get into my backstory too
yeah.
much.
But we're misled by these things, and
Well,
so it really based on the education of your
yeah,
instructor and what.
but again, okay,
Uh huh.
really good dogma, right? When we talk about this all the time, right? There's some people said, and I'm going to credit someone else, and I said
Uh
this
huh.
in a podcast, but the belt system, right?
Uh
We
huh.
well, if you're a judoka, well, the belt system came directly from Jirogo Okano. He was the
Yes.
one. He was an educator, and he brought the
Yes.
belt system. But there's other folks that say, no, no, no. Back in the day, it was a white belt, and you worked so hard that white belt became brown, and you blood, sweat, and tears, and eventually you ended up with a crusty, nasty ass thing that was black.
We all shared
Yeah,
that
but no,
story.
we
We
did,
all shared
and then
that.
and you're going. I'm like, no, no. However, and I credit this to Bolo Sensei
Uh huh.
of he's Taikito, He's one of the Whitleys, and it's one of the best fighting families in Western Massachusetts. If you don't know who they are and you're from Western Massachusetts, I tell you, you're lying. Like, you know who they are.
First,
Um,
I would say
yeah,
belts, obis did not exist as far as karate
yeah, well,
obis. It didn't
yeah. Well,
exist in
gis
Japan.
didn't exist
Yeah,
the
I
way
mean, you
we
had
know
the
them.
wide
Yeah,
obis that you would put on before
yes,
your
yes.
hakama.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. So we're not even going to get into all of that, right? There's so many flaws in that story. However, but what Bolo said to me, and the reason why we call him Bolo is because
he was a bodybuilder.
well, yes, but he was like Bolo Young in the
Yeah,
movies.
yeah,
He was the villain.
yeah.
No, here's the. I'm not doing him justice though. Well, so there's two different people,
Uh-huh.
right? And I agree with Haskins Sensei. There's Mark and there's Bolo.
Uh-huh.
Depends on which guy shows up.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, if Mark shows up, you have a reasonably negotiable person. But if
Okay.
Bolo shows up, you've seen Bolo Young in movies, right? You know what he was, right? He
Yeah.
might as well have been called Debo.
Yeah. You got a
Like,
split
yeah,
personality.
yeah, he's about to set shit on fire. That
Uh-huh.
you about to get your ass beat. I mean, that's the reality to it. But he said something to me that I found very profound, and in what he said was, "How do you know that origin story is not true?"
Hmm.
Listen, there were a lot of things going on in martial community, and it's not like today where we got the internet, we got things that tie us together.
Hmm.
How do you know that there wasn't someone somewhere in Okinawa that, well, they had a belt? He's head of the system, took the belt, never took it off. It got dirty, and it eventually became black. And that story isn't. Listen, I guess what he was saying was, and again, because we're talking about dogma, right?
Hmm.
That proved to me that didn't happen.
Hmm. You
I
can't.
mean, you can't.
You can't.
There's canon, there's accepted canon,
Hmm.
there's things that gets added in martial canon, martial lore, right? If you want to look at it that way. But prove to me, he said, that didn't happen.
Hmm.
And I'm no, Mark. And I got frustrated with him on the phone, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me right now? This isn't rocket science. You can look this up." Da da da. And he says, "Yeah, I know, and you're saying that, but that's you weren't there.
Yeah. You weren't there.
You weren't there." And he says, "You're only regurgitating what someone else said to you, and it did." And he says, "You, a fan of American history, should know." And I knew what he was going to say right before he said it, so I kind of got mad at myself, and I got madder at him because he was checkmating me right
Uh-huh.
there, you know. And he was like, "You should know that the narrative is controlled by whoever's in control."
Yeah.
So
Makes
again,
sense.
he circles it back. Prove to me that isn't correct. Case in point. And he took it one step further, and again, I give him the credit where credit is due. He was the first person to ever say to me, sorry about that, folks. We're live and I'm on a do not disturb. He was the first person to ever say to me that different martial systems all have things that are very common, right?
Hmm.
The most pragmatic stuff, this, that, and the third. And that the things that separate us the same way we're separated in the way we are black, white, this, that, and the third. Those are the things that separate us. But outside of that, fighting is fighting.
Hmm.
Two arms, two legs, one head, one body. What are you gonna do?
Right. But the point is to keep someone interested, to keep someone motivated. That's why people are seeking these particular instructions. And so when you can keep the fuel, it's fire, you're feeding the flame, you're feeding the love, the passion. So as an instructor, when you're teaching your students, that's why we share stories,
Hmm.
folk tales, legends, myth, lore, whatever, because it's to keep them consistently pondering. We do this within religious practice. You see it in the Bible, you see it in the Quran, you see it in the Bhagavad Gita. You see it in all kinds of sources out there. And so this is what gives you strength, courage, even though it's a story, and that's the only thing you have to understand, that this is not real. So Daniel in the lion's den, All right, like don't attempt that at a zoo.
Mhm.
Do not go into the lion's den. But you have some people who take it very literal and they actually attempt to actually, touch a lion. And
Yeah.
it doesn't turn out well for them.
No.
All
Yeah.
right.
Silliness.
So, yeah. And so we have that. But when you believe in something so much, you become delusional. All right. And so a lot of what we see out here from when we grew up as martial artists,
Mm.
and were able to spot it because we know it's crazy. All right. But the average person whose lens is novice will not be able to see that. That's why a lot of folks can be misled into bullcrap because listen, I don't know what to look for.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! You mean I can't do like this, and my chi power is so strong you fall down?
No, hey, listen, you coerce them into that.
That is just
Yeah,
silliness.
yeah, yeah. You
My chi
coerce
is
them.
that strong, sir. I'm
Yeah.
like I'm
I
hitting.
I I I I wait for someone to do it.
I'm hitting you with it right
Yeah,
now. Mm.
I don't feel nothing.
What do you mean?
Nothing
Hey,
there.
oh, you got to believe in it.
No.
Sorry,
So yeah, but
we're
no, but
poking
this is
fun
what
on
it
some
no,
silliness, but
no, but
yes.
that's what it's all about.
Mm.
And so usually, like I said, the mind leads the body. So if you can trick the mind, like the old saying, the mind tricks the body, body tricks the mind, is crazy.
Yeah,
All right?
that. Yeah.
And that's what it is. So listen, the hand is quicker than the eye. I can do all kinds of things right in front of you, and you would just be like, whoa. All right, little simple trick, right?
Mm.
And this is something I done to my students a long time ago, right? So I
You
would tell,
guys, this is students, are you guys
yeah,
paying
yeah, yeah,
attention?
and I did this to my students to prove a point
Yes.
on the tomfoolery that's going on out here. So I told my students to put their fists together and don't let me move your fist apart. Don't let me move it off or anything. So I took my two fingers and I said, squeeze it really tight and don't let me move it. And it went through all the time. And
Readjust your mic because we're getting beard.
okay. And not even that, but just try to move my fist. Just take them apart.
Yeah.
Okay. And they could not take my fist apart for nothing. And I said, and I was joking with them, and I said, I'm going to use my key where it's going to solidify my fist where you cannot take it apart.
Oh well,
Okay.
he even gave the deep voice too.
All right. And so they tried, they couldn't do it. I did it, and I had every student try to move my fist, and they could not move it, and they were all mystified by this. All right. But they didn't see this. So I'm making my fist, and I say, move my fist. Go ahead. Move it. Go ahead.
Moving your fist.
Yeah. Oh, no, no. Try to take it on top.
Oh,
Move the
oh, yeah.
top fist off.
Move the top fist off. I can't move the top fist off. Oh my god.
You
That
can't
is-
move. You
yeah.
can't move the top fist off. And so now they were blown away from that. And they were like, "How did you do that?" Because I was knocking everyone's fist over. And I was like, "I put my thumb in it." Little simple tricks. Yo, but this is this is what goes on. I'm gonna put the bowl on my belly and hold and say chi is doing it.
Oh,
I'm gonna
no.
bend the rod on my throat, and then
But I guess that goes into it, and then when you learn it, it rocks your faith, right? And with that being said, when that happens, it causes one to start to question everything. It's like the Matrix, right? And stuff like that. Now, and I'm like, Morpheus, right? Because at this point, again, the dogma had led me to believe that chi doing all this stuff is, and again, for those tuning in, look, I practice qigong, but to prove it, how? I can do things, but then there's also science that explains how I do those things and stuff like that. So I think personally, where I would tell you that no, I practice qigong, and it enhanced the things that I do, and it makes me better at what I do. The problem with that is, how do I prove it?
it's real easy to prove. All right, but you
No,
got
well, not when you're
no,
doing
no,
the
no,
thump
no,
thing
no,
and then
no,
you're
no,
telling
no,
people move my
no, no,
thumb.
because that's not what it's for, and that's
That's the point.
That's the
That's
problem.
what I'm saying.
All right,
Where do you separate the dogma?
first, the easiest way to break down ki or chi is bioelectricity. That's what I call it, bioelectricity. And we all have this. It's within everything. It's in the trees. It's what keeps us alive. It's what keeps us functional.
Stop it, because there's somebody who likes Star Wars right now that's gonna get really mad.
It's what keeps us functioning. You're warm blooded. You got cold chi. You got hot chi.
Mhm.
And so you got cold blooded, warm blooded. We have this vital force within us. It's I mean, listen, if you pass away or if you die, if you pass down from a heart attack, you need a defib. All right.
Well, because we have electrical current somewhere
Exactly,
running through our
that
bodies.
is
Yes, yeah.
what it
Okay.
is. And so what it is learning how to harness this energy and connect with this energy, because we have a huge disconnect with it. All right. And we walk with it oblivious every day and we don't pay attention to it. So
Mm.
when you do pay attention to it, you can use it for health benefits. And if you become a little bit more advanced, then you can feel it, because you can feel the energy. All right, whether you can use it to move someone, I miss me
Well,
with
no,
all
well,
that.
no, but here's the
But
thing. I mean, I feel like that those best practices, what over the years were lost, whatever. And if you can, if somebody can,
you're not going to
and
find
stuff like
them.
that, you're not going to find them.
It's very rare to
It's
see
well,
someone like that.
it's like what does they call it? That weird thing with people who can see the future and all that other
Yeah, yeah,
crazy
yeah, yeah,
stuff. I
yeah.
mean, it's not
Yeah,
that
you
kind of
have
black and
clairvoyance,
white,
you
and
have
yeah, it's
clairvoyance, but these people are not widely available. And even if you do see, they're not doing videos.
yeah.
They're not doing videos. They're not
I
involved in
have a Dave
technology.
Chappelle moment going through my head, right? You know, he's a Madam when he did that Madam Clara, whatever the
Yo,
hell.
listen,
Lord of
even
mercy.
even my instructor, I mean, my instructor was well, he was somebody, but he was a nobody. He was not a public figure.
Yeah,
He didn't want to be known.
but
He didn't
but
really
you got to keep
care.
that in mind. Listen, you know, when you anybody who's ever been around any real heavy hitter, and those that know what I'm talking about, they don't look like heavy hitters. They
Hmm.
don't. They're not. They're not. So there was a friend of ours, the Marshall Mays, Doss, Nathan Ingram, great guy, and Deadly Art of Survival magazine. If you don't know, you should know because it's the number one martial arts magazine in America. And yes, I just plugged that. um, with that being said, like so, Nathan had sent me a thing about sometimes the loudest lion and stuff like
Hmm.
that. I told you
Yeah,
about it, and I
yeah,
said I
yeah, yeah.
really like this. I thought this was awesome and stuff like that because sometimes the guy making the most noise, it just really can't get it done.
Yeah.
But the guy being quiet, shh, the guy that's mopping the floors.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you told me earlier today with the gardener, right?
Hmm.
The guy cleaning the garden.
Hmm.
That's the guy.
That's the guy.
You know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. So like the heavy hitters, the real people that could do these things, they're not that they don't do them because I think that some of that stuff is a lifetime pursuit. Like real fighters, and I tell this to folks all the time, real fighters, people that can really take your to just eat you, they're not getting into fights. Like there's the sport guys, and don't get me wrong, I'm a sport guy. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna talk the trash. I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna get in the ring. Hell, when I'm losing, I'm still talking shit, right? Um, but that's a sport. It's not real life. Real life, when I'm fighting for real, like I said this in the past, and the people that know, I don't say anything.
Yeah. It,
Why? Why am I going to advertise? And if I am saying something, it pretty much means I don't want to fight.
right.
I'm giving you every opportunity to walk away.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yo, Brock, you don't want to mess with me, man. All of that crazy stuff. But sometimes, like I was saying, sometimes a loud lion is just a loud lion.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's true. Or you could be trying to tell someone that, yo, listen, there's a fire down the street and you need to get out. And I'm
Yeah,
yelling.
I'm ruffling my feathers,
All right.
giving you every out, every excuse to walk away. Why? Because I know what's going to come next. See, you think we're going about to get into a fight, but I think we've had this conversation in the past, man. I'm like, I learned this the hard way a long time ago about resolve, and the person that gave me that lesson, that person was prepared to die. I thought I was just getting into a fight, and that's the difference.
Yep.
And after that, I understood what it is to fight for your life or to think that you look, man. This is for my life. It's which is not the same as sport, and sometimes guys get caught in that. And again,
Well, that's because we've been raised in it.
well, the
So we
dogma,
break it, it comes
it go
into our everyday
well because
culture.
it goes back into dogma, the things that we get raised on, the things that we're told in the martial community. At no time, even the guys that claim they be pressure testing this, that, and the third, unless you killing people in your dojo, how far are you really taking it, bro? You
Hmm.
know what I mean? That's the reality to it. How far
Hmm.
are you really taking it? I mean, both his whips, bash him up. We all know if you, as a judoka, I will say this because I understand the lineage as a judoka. Jitsu before Kano, if I broke your arm or broke you up, you were out of practice. You're gone. I don't get to continue practicing. My practice partner is gone. Judo is designed so you guys can practice all that lethal stuff in a safer way. Why? So that we can both continue to grow and get better, correct?
Hmm.
So, with that being said, at any dojo, any school, no matter how they're trying to give you that, oh, we're ultimately, you're not killing anybody in your dojo and you ain't breaking somebody up in such a way where they won't come back. Because if they don't come back, you got no one to practice with. So stop it.
Yeah,
That's all I got to say about
this
that.
is a problem. I mean, this once again, it's a huge problem because it's how your coaches are teaching you. It's the culture of it all. So some people don't understand the etiquette behind all of this. So when you take someone from off the street and and you're in an MMA gym, there is none of that there, so you're fine. Yeah, I don't want to bow, I don't want to do any of this. Just, put on some mitts, show me what to do. All
Hmm.
right, we're not here to make you a better person. We're not here to.
Because that's the
Yeah,
truth
yeah,
about combatives.
right, right.
Combatives has nothing to
It
do
has
with
nothing to do
good
with
moral
it.
compass. It has to
Right.
do with making you into a machine, a fighter.
Right, right. You're here to learn how to fight. Let's fight. Let's get in the ring and let's fight. You get it in, you get it out. But no one is concerned about the character of the person. What? Who are they teaching?
Mm,
Whether they're womanizers,
mm,
child molesters.
mm.
There's a series of bad individuals, women as well, that are out there learning these arts, BJJ and everything else, and you don't know who they using it on or doing what
Well,
to.
that and listen, we need to actually do something about that. I mean, I feel like we need to do another episode on that
Hmm.
because, again, do you know who you're teaching?
Yeah, you don't know.
Do you know?
You
And
don't
more
know.
importantly,
You don't care.
look. There are some
Just pay the
folks.
bills.
There are some folks learning this stuff for a reason.
Hmm.
You have to ask yourself why. Why would somebody want to learn combatives in such a way, right? And then and you get into the ideology. I'm one of those folks that I always believe you need to know your students. You need to
Yeah.
know the people you train with, because sometimes you might find that dude's like, well, I believe the government's coming to get me, and and they go into this spiel, and you get to know them, and
Yeah. And
you
that's a
can.
red flag.
And don't get me wrong, you make an educated decision at that point if you want
Hmm.
to continue teaching that person, but understand, no. I would say know thy enemy, know the person that you're training with, know the people that are in your school. You should,
Yeah.
because you're a family, right?
Right.
We talk about this all the time. But yeah, I want to know.
Yeah. It's very
I'm
simple.
training you, and you may be the one who may be coming to kill me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I kind of want to know. Somebody said somewhere, well, that's kind of being paranoid. But
Yeah.
I'm like,
No, you're responsible. Your school is responsible.
here's the thing:
You're
where
responsible.
do you go? Where do you go? Right. So even back in the day when we were coming up, going back to dogma, because all this stuff it's all
It's all
intertwined.
twined in.
You went, you didn't go to a school where everybody was candy, but like they what I call them fish or whatever, candy asses. I'm gonna be inappropriate. I'm gonna say candy, and that you don't go to a commercial school like that because you can't learn to fight there. What you do is you go to the one when you walk in, you smell blood, sweat, and tears when you walk in. That's how you knew you were at a real gym. That's
Hmm.
how you know.
Hmm.
I mean, nowadays things are even no. Even some of the really good Brazilian jiu-jitsu clubs that I've walked into, no matter how clean, how many times they sanitize them floors,
Hmm.
You smell it when you walk
Yeah,
in. You see it in the intent of the guys in the eyes of the people that train there. No different than the MMA gym. No different. Or
yeah,
we walked into that spot in New York.
yeah,
Like where
yeah,
trains out of.
hmm,
You can tell. You can tell the
yeah,
individuals that are there. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? What they're there for, what they're
hmm,
there to train, and they for real, baby.
yeah,
They ready to go.
yeah,
I told you when I did the thing with Tony Watts, I really want to revisit. I want to redo that episode because I feel like I really didn't do that brother justice. And for those that train out of the Watts camp, yeah, Israel Lopez and the Marshall Mays definitely saying, yeah, we kind of need to do a thing
yeah.
again. um,
But I would tell you that's how people are persuaded, to join these camps and groups. It's stories that are being told. All right. It's all a big marketing campaign to get people to come in through those doors. And so, once again, like, it's all dogma, like, for instance,
well,
the
listen,
story, remember back, I mean, we heard this, and I believe Haskins Sensei has brought this up too, as far as, well, 90% of street fights end up on the ground.
mm,
Stories like that. This is not something spiritual or anything, but these are just stats that have been thrown
well, yeah,
out
but
there.
yeah, yeah.
And now, when was the first time you heard that? What year did you hear that?
That almost
Or,
all fights end
or,
up
or
on the
fights
ground.
end up
Yeah,
on the
and
ground?
when did that become the marketing?
Right.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
so
Yes.
now for the average person, they're like, well, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
truth
they
hurts,
and
guys.
they buy into
Yeah,
it.
and they do.
And then people like us who are experienced, they're like, listen, I ain't going to the ground unless I want to be on the ground, unless I slip on bad terrain or something like
And even yeah, well, I'm
that.
about to say, working at the nightclubs as long as I have and stuff like that. The only time I've ever gone to the ground is when I wanted to. Now, in the when we think about it in policing, well, going to the ground is a natural thing
That's a natural
because my
thing.
job is to take you alive, so that makes sense. So like
Yes.
that. So yeah, I might. Well, I mean, may be inclined to grapple with you a little bit,
Yeah.
depending on what department I belong to.
But it makes sense
It
that you're
makes
going to
sense
get
in the
into
call.
some
Yeah, in the
form
culture
of a
of
tussle.
policing, it makes sense. But yeah, I'm like, I hear that all the time. We're gonna go to the ground, and I'm like, you sure?
Yeah.
I'm like anybody who's grown up in Springfield, Massachusetts. You understand instantly. Going to the ground may be a death sentence. I'm just throwing that out there to you.
Yeah. And so we hear these kind of stories and then we kind of butter up to them. Yeah, that makes sense because your knowledge is limited. So you don't know no better. And that's what happens a good portion
Well,
of
you're
the time.
still
You
thinking
don't
of well,
know.
no, because you're thinking of the head up fight, right? I mean, because we went to school that way,
Hmm.
Chestnut, right?
Hmm.
We for what's it the name of that park? Calhoun,
Yeah.
Calhoun Park.
Hmm.
Everybody would go there, circle up, and throw hands. I was telling Haskins since we were
Yep.
talking about this
Yep. That's what
yesterday.
we did
And you
religiously.
throw hands, and boom, you get dropped, or if you get into a clinch, everybody let him go,
Big
stand him back up,
circles.
and it's a head
Yeah.
up. Right? How many times have you? Anybody who's been from the hood knows exactly what I mean when I'm saying head up. Right? However, those of us from that very same hood understand sometimes when we beefing, is one of you, there's 10 of us.
You getting jumped.
Yeah. And that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
Vice versa, this, that, and the third, and again, but again, now we're talking real violence. We're talking acts of habitual violence, right? They
Hmm.
don't follow a rule set. Trying to rationalize irrational behavior is just foolishness.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You need to dismiss that and move on, move past it. I mean, a lot of what we do in the martial community, I always say you got two categories. You have sport
Hmm.
and then you have real life. Now, oh, you can see my other hand. Real life. Sport has rules and we can conform to these rules. And I think majority of us find comfort and are very fine living in the sport
Oh yeah. We bring it to the street. We bring sport to the
because
street.
real life is the worst.
Hmm.
It's the worst of us. It's just you need God. You need something if you live in this part
Hmm.
because this part right here, you got to be able to live with yourself after you've made some of those actions. You have to be able to deal with you after this. You have to be able to look your family in the eyes after this. And that,
Hmm.
this right here, I think people like talking about this. They like romanticizing about this. But anybody who's ever lived this understands that I'd rather be in Sportville.
Yeah. It's safer.
It's just better.
It's absolutely safer.
You can
So
sleep at night.
yeah. You don't have to worry
Literally.
about even, and that's even hard when you injure someone in a competition, and it's not easy to sleep at night when you know that I may have killed a person in the ring, or
Well, no, but
severely
that's
injured
that,
them.
and again, we go back to spirituality and those
Yeah.
things, and I feel like, in going back, circling all the way back to the beginning of this episode, that is the thing that gets disrupted when you show me, you raised me on this belief, and you said this was chi,
Hmm.
and you said all these things, and then you later take that belief from me by showing this is the science.
Hmm.
Then no, 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 not no. It's just science.
Hmm.
This is structure, and
Hmm.
this is, and it allowed me to do whatever. Or my thumb is the reason why you couldn't move my
Hmm.
finger. Or when I'm doing sleight of hand magic, which I only do when I'm drunk, because for whatever reason I can pull it off when I've been drinking. I don't know why. I'm like, or at least I think I can. And you do that, or when you're a parent and you finally tell your child there is no Santa Claus. I always bring that back to Santa Claus because it really was traumatizing
Yeah.
for me. Because it really was. I'm like, to find out there was no Santa
There
Claus.
is no hack in the martial arts. There is no hack, no cheap trick, parlor tricks, any accelerated course or any of that in the arts. Zero.
Yeah, and
It's not there.
because you disrupt someone's faith. And ultimately, when we walk into a dojo and you take on the mantle as sensei,
Mhm.
the average student, especially when they're young, and this is why as a judoka, we take the safe sport and all this other good stuff. And anybody who's ever done any sport or sport, been coaching any sport, understands this, that your students or the kids that train and the people that train under you look at you and it's such a reverence. Right? You're here on that pedestal. And there's a power. There's a power
Mhm.
there, right?
Mhm.
And stuff like that. And we're holding on to your word because you came before.
Mhm.
You understand. You've already
Mhm.
been to the summit, baby. And we're holding on to every word and everything you say to us is a gospel. It's the thing that keeps me up, that makes me turn on the YouTube to watch the reels that you put out. It's the thing that makes me come to practice religiously over and over again. All of those things. And you don't want to disrupt that,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because it's a trust. So
Mhm.
when you
That's it.
when
It's
you
a
break when you
trust.
well that's just it, because that trust is my faith in you, something bigger than myself, right? I have faith in you. I have faith in your ability. How many I once one of my students, and one of my best friends, actually one of my very best, he is my best friend, um um Haranzi
Mhm.
sensei, because he did earn the title of sensei from me. um he I remember he half-assed trained for the Morris Cup, and I kept telling him, "Bro, you got to put in work. It's the Morris Cup. You need it's the Morris Cup. You need to put in work." And he half-assed trained, and he goes and he's 2 and out,
Mhm.
and he hated losing in front of the kids. He hated losing in front of everybody.
Mhm.
Right, to the point where he, the second time around, where he had sound technique, he threw himself on an uchimata, right? The
Mhm.
guy
Yeah.
Sukashi
Yeah.
him,
Yeah.
right, and it rocked him.
Mhm.
It rocked him to his very core. If you ask him tomorrow, he'd still tell you the story because it really did. It rocked him. But it what rocked him was the faith that all the kids had in him.
Mhm.
So of course, like, that's the thing where if any sensei will tell you this, we don't want to lose in front
Yeah.
of our students and stuff
Mhm.
like that, because we've built it up, right? We
Mhm.
did. Well, my sensei, if my sensei gets beat in a tournament, it's a tournament.
Right.
We're
And
not we're not
and
inhuman.
we're not
We're not
infallible.
infallible, but we are. When it went to a kid, to a student, to anybody training underneath you, you are infallible. Why? Because if I'm training underneath you, I'm holding on to everything you say as gospel,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm not second guessing anything because the cup was empty the whole time, and then I brought it in, and I'm just there. Oh, hey Haskins, what's going on, brother? That you might know a lot about what I'm talking about right now, and all of that. So if you lose, am I with the right person? It's like the same thing when I learned that the cheese not real.
Mhm.
It's the same thing, and you don't mean to do it. It's not your fault.
Mhm.
As the sensei, it's not.
Mhm.
You didn't start it off and say to me, I am infallible. You never said that.
Mhm.
But all the dogma, all the things that I've learned
Right.
watching TV,
But
all the
you
influences,
created the character
yes,
as if you
you,
were flawless.
yes, you
And
are infallible.
that's the problem.
I start
And
acting like you.
yeah,
I start talking like you.
yes.
I start doing everything like you
Yeah.
because in the end, it's what they say. Imitation is the biggest form of
Yeah.
flattery, right?
Yeah, and this is where it's went too far. It's went extremely too far. And we are not infallible. I mean like we can fall like anybody else. We can get tapped up like anyone else. We have our good days. We have our bad days. There are people out there who are probably way more proficient than you are, and you got to eat that. It doesn't matter.
Which is why I love living in a sport because
Now,
in this what here, let me finish this real quick.
right,
I'm like in a sport, I can say that I can only bring you so far. Listen, I'm not a world class judoka competitor, right? Well, maybe now it's not so much. Well, give me a
hmm
couple months.
hmm
I might be telling you something different. But I know that Jimmy Pedro has been to the Olympics X amount of times. I know that Ray Marquez he's a world competitor, he's world class, he's all over the place.
hmm
I know that Gabriel Gonzaga has fought all over the place. I know and I can pass you off
hmm
to the better player and never lose face.
yeah, that's a good thing.
And
That's
never feel
that's a
like
good
I've
thing.
let you down, never done any of that because it for me, living in the sport allows me the comfort to say, I can take you to this level, but if you want to be the best of the best of the best, and it doesn't know, here's the thing, it doesn't affect me at all. I'm glad I'm grassroots or I'm college elite, this, that, and the third, but you want to be in the NFL, baby. I'm like, you, so you need,
I'll pass you off.
yeah, I'm going to move you up.
Yeah.
The thing about when I'm teaching the other stuff, the real combatives, right?
hmm
For life, if the pass you up says to you that if you continue training with me in a real life situation, you will die
hmm
because I don't have the working knowledge. It's a different animal,
Well,
different mindset.
yeah, yeah, I would say, and this is the problem we're dealing with, today, because it's a big business, teaching martial arts, and you have a lot of instructors that just want your money. All right. And that's it at the end of the day. They don't care about you as a person or what you do, or not trying to have a relationship with you. Just pay your monthly dues. We have a saying that we're familiar with: fall 7 times, get up 8.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, I mean, if we are teaching, first, I'm not even going to go into morals, but one part of morality is being truthful. and,
Yes.
and and that's really where it lies, being truthful. And so if you have a student, I have had many people call me, acquiring martial art classes,
Hmm.
and never took the time to look up, even though it's clearly there. They call me up, say, hey, so what is it you teach? All right, and it's
Ooh.
clearly there, all in the details and what I do. But you get these people, and so I say I teach bujutsu, and they're like, "Boo, what?" And so then I spell it out, and I say, "Hey, um, before we go any further, did you read the details of what I teach in my school?" So I already know firsthand, first off, if someone's really serious about their martial instruction, that they would look into those details first off, versus, well, I'm just looking for some kind of martial arts because I like martial arts. And to me personally, do you do that when you're looking for employment? Oh, or if you're at a lower level, then maybe because you're without and you'll take whatever's available. And I understand that too. All right.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
I
Loving it.
yeah, yeah, I understand that too. But if you're choosing a college, you have to have a study, which is going to be your major, which is going to be your minor.
What's your concentration at?
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
You have to have a specialty. What is your focus? And so when people don't take the time to look into those particular focuses and they call you up, the first question, once I get into it with them, I say, "What's your purpose and reason?" And I get this all the time. Oh, no one's ever asked me that before. No one has ever asked me, why do I want to do martial arts?
Well, because well, I can tell you right now, and as many times I love it. You know damn well I'm lying when I say I love it. Somebody walks in and says, "I want to learn karate."
In a judo, in a judo habits, that kills me. That kills me. And I'm like, okay, I know where we at. I see. I already see where we're going here. And so that is a sad state of affairs. And I tell folks that take your time, do your research, look into what it is you want to do. There's hundreds of martial arts out there. Hundreds of combatives that are out there. So take your time. Like I said, I make a distinction between martial arts and combatives.
Because and as you should. I mean, I get it. Where
There's
some
a
things
difference.
are certain things are considered the same and stuff like that. Like I always liken a lot of things to musical theory. If you know me and have a conversation with me, a
Uh-huh.
lot of times I'll bring it back to musical theory. Because that to me is the pragmatic, right? The
Hmm.
pragmatic is the musical theory, right? It's where I can take the because I understand chord structure, all those things. I may not be able to play a piano in the classical sense, but I can get on there and give you a jaunt,
You
right? I
understand
can
measures.
I can do that. Or like we were talking about with dancing today,
Hmm.
right? And earlier today, folks, there was this guy, right, who came up with this Cuban man. And he had this thing, and anybody's ever saw that reel, it's I listen. I gotta really start like recording those or catalog.
Categorizes.
Yes, because it was so great. Like he was showing how the different instruments play on the different part of the beat, but you can dance to each instrument. And he's doing the shoulder thing, and he's got the woo, and but he's
And then
on the
he comes
one and the
right
two,
back in.
and it was, but he understood musical theory.
Right.
Because he understood musical theory, he was able to utilize that information. And I think so. How I make this relevant in the world of martial arts, is pragmatic martial arts is the same. But did you say it? I say it. Haskins says I always credit Haskins Sensei for it because of the tools
Yeah.
technique, right? Same thing. The mechanic of a hammer will always be the mechanic of the hammer. Period. My
Hmm.
imagination allows me to utilize other tools or other things the same as the hammer, but it still doesn't replace the hammer.
Hmm.
But it's the basic part.
Hmm.
Now, with that being said, I always take it one step further and I said, but I'm a bassist.
Hmm.
I can grab the piano. I can dance. Hell, I might even be able to sing, but I'm a bassist.
Hmm.
All the information you can find in any karate system you can find in the sport of judo, because ultimately in the pragmatic sense of the martial art as of judo, it's the same information. No different. If you study judo, you'll be able to take the information that you learn in the sport of judo and be able to walk into a regular karate school and find all the basics. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you can do P9s 1 through 5 overnight because it ain't happening. Sorry, miss me on that.
No,
But you'll
it's
be able
different.
to
Yeah, yeah.
hold like I was having a conversation and we were talking about how a brother can walk into different places and be able to hold his own
Yeah.
in different martial systems. And it's because he understands himself, he
Hmm.
understands how to manage his body, he understands all these things, and so when he walks into that school, any school, even with the cup empty, because even when your cup is empty, I think the misconception here doesn't mean I don't want to take in new knowledge, but I'm not going to forget the old stuff either,
Hmm.
though.
Hmm.
I'm not going to walk in and just be a fish overnight,
Hmm.
especially if my body naturally knows to move. No matter what's coming at me, I'm going to move. I'm
Hmm.
going to move. I'm going to move. I'm going to hit a 45 no matter what, right?
Hmm.
And stuff like that. So you're like, no, 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 I need you. I'm going to punch. I need you to stay center line. That's silly. Why would I stay center line? You're going to hit me. In
Hmm.
fact, I'll get the two piece.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
we were talking about that on the way
Yeah.
here to do the podcast. I said one of the things that gets lost, right, when somebody says, "Well, nobody just stands there; they throw the 1 and the 2," and I was like, if you move off center line off the 1, the 2 never hits you.
Yeah.
Like think about it. If I throw the punch and it's facing, oh look, I will use the camera. If I throw my punch and it's here directly in front of you, I can always hit you with the other one.
Yeah.
But if you move off it, I'm gonna move for you, ladies and gentlemen. If I throw the punch and you move off center line here, When I throw this other hand, it's never, notice you don't even see it. It's never going to hit you
Right.
because you moved off center line. You're no longer in front of me. I mean, that's
Correct.
the reality
Yeah.
to it. So they
Correct.
say, well, no one just throws one punch. Well, if I move off center line, it don't matter how many punches you throw. You can
Right.
throw punches and
Right.
kicks all you want. You're just never going to touch me.
I just think that
I feel like we're going all over the place, but
yeah,
go ahead.
no, 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 no. With that being said, once again, when we are, choosing whatever martial system for whatever reason, because it's based off beliefs, we need to examine them a lot more deeper. You need to examine deeper with inside yourself before you make these choices. I think that it's important for folks to understand that martial arts, as far as combatives and martial systems, doesn't cover everything under the spectrum. I'm quick to say that the arts that I teach were only geared towards fighting other samurai on the warfield. That's as good as it gets.
Brother,
Until
listen, I ain't gonna lie, brother. You had me at tabby boots.
all right. Well, no, that's because we're outdoors. You
I'm like,
know what
no,
I'm
no,
saying?
listen. I'm like, what? I can wear some tabby boots? Oh, all right. And do I
Yeah,
get a smoke bomb?
yeah.
I'm
But no,
horrible.
no, but
Say
that's
he's gonna hit me, ladies and
no, no,
gentlemen.
no. That's
I'm about to get punched.
traditional. I mean, whether you're wearing the sandals or the flip flops in Japan, these were custom wears that you would always wear because you wouldn't wear them indoors. And if you were doing some form of training in the field, or mostly farmers wore tabis. So if you're out there in the field, these are what you would put on. And so they were pretty much designed for you to stay connected, because even the peasants, they were barefooted a good portion of the time. But to go back to what I was saying,
Oh, you just reminded me of something I lost earlier.
all right,
But okay.
all right. So what I'm saying is this real quick. That's even going into another topic. Why do we train barefooted? All right, but that's another
Oh no,
topic.
I was gonna
All
get into the whole
right.
thing with the all three truths are equal, and I was gonna say this, and it was Bolo Sensei. Because I kind of lost my train of thought because
Uh-huh.
Alana had texted me,
Uh-huh.
but I was gonna say this part to circling way back to when I was talking about Bolo, and I was saying that he said to me that all three origin stories of martial systems are correct, depending on what time.
Yeah.
So, one, combatives from the military, came from military stratums and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
That's right.
The other, the elite. The
Mhm.
elite people were the ones that got taught it. And then in another period, the farmers. Yeah, I know there are a lot of somebody out there going, there wasn't enough time. There was a period where, yes,
Yeah.
yes, the poor people learned martial stratagems in Okinawa. So
Yeah.
all three things are true
Yeah.
depending on what time
Yeah.
you're
Time frame.
you're going in. What period?
Yeah.
Is that a better way of saying that?
No, no, no.
Period.
You're
Period.
saying it.
Period.
You're saying it, and it varies. It varies among systems,
I had to give
but
him the credit because he was right and I
yeah,
was
yeah,
wrong.
it's very true, and that's where I make the distinction. Most of the arts that I teach were warring period martial arts, so it was derived from war. So it was about fighting other specialists in the warcraft. It wasn't about fighting peasants or anything like that. That made absolutely no sense. Versus if you were doing a Southeast Asian martial art like Salat or something like that, that derived out of the jungles and more guerrilla like guerrilla warfare. These were civilian arts that received, and then nobility was actually involved in it too. So that's why we get those mixed stories about karate in Okinawa. And we had, remember those first stories? Oh, it was the peasants
Well,
that
that's what
that
I
those
just said.
that
Yeah.
yeah, and we
Yeah.
got a lot of that. And so, but most people didn't understand that a kingdom fell and those nobilities became farmers and fishermen. and
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 they
then
brought, yeah, and they had
yeah,
those things. Well, that's
yeah,
what that
so we
so
got
so
different.
that's so that was my point when I said that like I told you, he made me question, and again it was a palather. We went
Uh-huh.
back and forth and we're arguing. I encourage any and everyone to do this, man. I'm like, listen, don't stay in your echo chamber.
Yes.
You should be out there talking to other martial artists, having conversations that they don't
Yes.
need to be getting into fights and stuff like that. Well, maybe sometimes they might have to. I don't know. Depends on you.
Well, you should be able to just talk without all
Well,
that.
no, but I'm like, but
You
sometimes
shouldn't be
no,
getting
no,
in your feelings.
no, no. There
But
are,
people do.
but because we're talking about a belief,
Yeah.
we're not talking about a system of study. We're talking, remember, some dogma, right?
Right, right.
This is a faith. This is a belief in what you're doing when you tell me that what I've been doing is wrong. And that's what I heard. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what you're saying. Well, look, Israel, well, I just said the government name. Your elbow is up like this. If it's stays up like this, it's going to get broken. You can say all of that to
Yep.
me. But what I heard was, you don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, that's it at the end of the day. And we do that all the time. And we have to stop doing all of that. Um, well, there's bad technique. If there's bad technique, then, hey, listen, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, see where your mind is. And then we can out gauge it from there. But the principles will always remain the same. So, for instance, prime example,
Hmm.
the way that we're taught here in America, if we're doing addition, we count on our fingers. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Other countries use the acabis, in China.
My man just said
And
that.
yeah, and then I learned a quick way how to do adding, subtraction, and multiplication with the digits on my finger.
Yeah.
So divisible by 3. So I don't do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I do 3, 6, 9. And then I'm able to knock things up. So I'm counting my fingers and knocking things off. And now the principle is all the same. The math is all the same.
Because math doesn't
Right,
lie.
right. It's all the same. It's just that your method, you do 1, 2, 3. I do 3, 6, 9, 12. And so it's a bit different. So yeah, I learned the hack. It's quick math, but it's all accurate. It's still the same thing. And so now, if we're talking about that, then yeah, show me your way and show me. And that's how we grow as a collective. One thing that I've learned throughout my journey in martial arts, in bujutsu, and budo, is that one has to venture. Like in Japan, there is not. Some schools teach multiple disciplines, but most of the schools are separated. So if you want to learn bo, you go bojutsu. If you want to learn sword, you go kinjutsu. If you want to learn
No, you
jujutsu,
specialize. Yeah, yeah.
and so you go to these schools and you trade around. So let me tell you a story. All right, and just show you why we need to cross train a bit more. And you can have your core principle, your core system. I have my core system, and I won't deviate from my core system. But it's important to get the education from other surrounding systems. So in Japan, for instance, you had an Aikido master, and he was twirling everyone around, everyone that did it straight, twirling them all around, all over the place. Looked beautiful, right? And then he said, harder, harder, punch harder. One of his students was a karateka, and he brought the heat. All right, and he struck like in karate, and he knocked him out. He knocked the sensei out for a while. Actually, he was knocked out. And so he said, punch hard. And that's what I did. But he wasn't prepared for that kind of strike. Intent, intent, intent. And so, because he taught his students a certain way of striking, this guy here was like, no, this is how we strike.
Mm.
And so that caught him off guard. Now, the same karateka um, was going against a jutsu guy. And so they were playing around. Jutsu guy swept him. They were third dan. Both of them were third dan. And the karateka broke his wrist because he didn't know ukemi. All right. So now that's important. You should know ukemi. Wherever he studied, they didn't teach ukemi there. So that was a lesson for him. So it's like, in the same thing with someone who does kendo. And then you deal with someone who does kenjutsu, and it's like, you do tournament. I do real warfare. So the Kendo dude was getting hit. He won many awards, but when he went to a Koryu school, he was getting tagged left and right.
Mm.
Okay. And so there's a difference. And so you have to gleam on all of these and take nuggets from everything. You have your core discipline, it only complements it so you don't get caught off guard. And then you can move in and out through a lot of the different
Well, but I
schools.
think, again, ultimately, we have our own personal attack systems, right?
Mhm.
I think that's, again, I love in judo we utilize the term play your judo, but I think in any martial system we have our own. You develop it over time and stuff like that. But with that being said, when I want to specialize in something, it means I'm going to move outside of my core. It
Yeah.
means I'm still very much aware this is my personal thing that keeps me alive, keeps me well, right? My firearm, whatever you want to call that,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then I have my sports stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because again, if I'm living my life by the first rule, right? The
Mm-hmm.
first rule,
Mm-hmm.
living your life in such a way where violence misses you, outside of being a black man, like, so we're not gonna bring that into it, but whatever, because that does play a role, right? I'm never gonna experience violence that way,
Mm-hmm.
because I know, case in point, the club closes at what time? I might leave at 11:30.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, it's just getting popping.
Mm-hmm.
What happens at the end of every night? Shoot up the place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna leave.
Mm-hmm.
When I walk to my car, I make sure there's no one in the back seat of it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Always look in the back. Da da da. I don't back in. Movie theater. Where am I sitting? Who's behind me? I
Mm-hmm.
need to know who's behind me. All these things. I'm at the restaurant. Unless I'm with you or somebody who's going to watch my six, well, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? These are best practices. So I was talking to Haskin Sensei about this yesterday, and I was saying, well, if I'm doing all these things, what do I need the hardcore combative system for? When? Outside of the love, outside of wanting to learn it, outside of wanting to take it in and kind of keep it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a 1956 Chevy. For whatever reason, I have a
Mm-hmm.
thing about the 1956 Chevy because I seem to talk about it all the
Mm-hmm.
time. Outside of wanting that,
Well, I would say that everyone has an itch they have to scratch. Some people like football, some people like basketball, some people like soccer. Everyone has some kind of niche that
hmm.
gets them moving day in and day out. Some of us are just really, some of us like fighting,
Well, that's
and
what I'm
and
saying.
that,
So the
and we
martial
naturally grow.
enthusiast,
Yes.
that's what I guess that's the point I'm getting to, where if we're all doing real pragmatic, serious martial arts, right? We're all fighting the same way. I don't care what style what you're trying to say, this, that, and the third. Anybody who's doing anything pragmatic for real, doesn't matter what art, you're doing the exact same thing. Everybody's doing the exact. I actually went to a seminar that was kind of geared around that, and everybody had a variation of the
Of the
exact same
same thing.
information.
The same
They
thing.
were all doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
They were all explaining it damn near the exact same way. And
Hmm.
they were all doing the exact like it was just and then like okay. And because the tool and the use of the tool doesn't change. It stays the same. Our imaginations allow us to do other things with it. And I think sometimes that's what gets caught up. And we do get caught up in things, saying things like style. This is my style. It's almost
Right.
like a way of saying, this is the way I like to utilize that information, which
Right.
is fine.
Well,
It's
it's an art.
well, it's like penmanship,
Mhm.
cursive, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm like, somebody said, well, cursive. And I said, well, no, two people write cursive the same way. I
No,
mean, we all
learn
make the I,
standard.
yes, the standard. We all learn it the same way. But when I sign my name,
Yeah, that's your
yeah,
John Hancock, and
yeah.
that's what you're supposed
Or, or
to do.
or the reason why I've always hated, well, there are people like, well, no cursive, everyone should know how to read cursive. I'm like, unless somebody is really good, has amazing handwriting in cursive, I don't know about you, but I remember when we were in school, there were certain things I couldn't read.
Well, I would tell you this,
You
right?
had to decipher it for
In
hours.
Japanese, it's called shuhari.
Mm,
All right, shuhari. And so, with that term being said, the first shoe, the shoe part is do as your teacher does.
mm,
Okay, period. You have to trace the lines. You're learning the alphabet of motion, nothing else, just alphabet of motion. All right, when you get to the ha part, that means there's more exploration inside the technique.
mm,
So you learn henka or variations
mm,
of how to do the same thing. All right. And now you're playing with it. You're like, no more different than getting a video game. You don't get a video game and not open the package and put it in and play with. So they don't really dive deep into the martial arts. So some folks only stay in the shoe phase. Some folks may get to the ha phase and understand how to play with the variations because they see other things, other possibilities within the technique.
mm.
And then you got the rephase. Most people don't even get to the rephase. All right. And that's when you learn to lose technique. It's not there no more. It's non-existent. You just know the dude's just on the ground. We don't know what the hell he did. All right, because you made it so much your own. We call it the John Hancock. All right, that's your signature.
Mm.
All right, and it only belongs to you. So when you're teaching your students, because it's an art, there's a stepping phase it should go in. All right. So that way you elevate the art. It's evolution. It should never stay the same. Well, my sensei did that. And so we repeat that. And then it's done the same way forever. No, that's the shit
Well,
in
like,
a glass bottle. That's a museum exhibit.
well, and it's counter to Haskins and I. We had a conversation about this yesterday, and like that's counter to what traditional martial art was.
Yeah.
Traditional martial art was always evolving.
Yes.
Like when somebody says to me, and Haskins said it the same way yesterday, that this is the way my sensei did it, and I'm going to do it the exact same way. It means you didn't think about the information. Look, Matsumura sensei didn't do the same thing. That like it changed, and
Mhm.
it was in Haskins' lineage. I'm not going to really get too far into that because I can't recite it verbatim, and he isn't here. But even in our lineage, um, look, Soken Matsumura, who's taught by it. So there's Benchnaka, Tode Sakagawa, the Soka Matsumura. It changed. They kept changing it, and they refined it.
Mhm.
They made it better and
Mhm.
stuff like that. I'm in my head. I'm defaulting back to Kinney.
Mhm.
Normally there's booze involved to remember the
Yeah,
lineage,
yeah,
so
but
my mind is kind of going there. Sorry, folks. But it was it everyone changed it. They made it better. They pulled something in. There was a saying in Cine, or when Kenny used to call it the Shern back in the day, because that's it's Shern. And the way Kenny added when we were transitioning into what is now Cine Robuto, Kenny often said that we added things
Mhm.
over the years because these things something was a little more pragmatic, the
Mhm.
information was better here
Mhm.
and stuff like that. I mean, like, and I talk about this all the time, and look at sports,
I
right?
evolved in my
Well,
schooling.
everybody has to
I've
evolve.
changed a
To
lot of
stop
things.
evolving, it's silly. It's again, look, the 1956 Chevy is an amazing vehicle, right? And
Mhm.
it drives great, does all these great things. I think it's what something like I forgot how many miles to the gallon versus a car now.
Mhm.
I think it's 40, 50 miles to the gallon.
Mhm.
You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Which one's more efficient?
Right, right.
Oh, don't get me wrong. Chevy's amazing. Looks
Mhm.
beautiful. Rub it with a diaper.
Mhm.
But it's
Yeah.
not. It's,
It all the whole point is that we need to stop getting, because it becomes cultish because of these beliefs.
and again,
All right.
dogma. This whole episode has been
Yeah.
about dogma.
Yeah, it becomes cultish because of these beliefs. So you
We're not a
cling,
cult.
yeah, yeah, you cling on to certain traditions. No, it's okay to have your core. I have my core. I'm taijutsu, Japanese jujutsu. All right, so I have my core, but it's not based off of someone's beliefs. All right, on why I need to be here or why this is the most superior system ever. All right. And we see this all the time because these are great marketing tools. And so you got people lining up. All right. Like I said, like when we were coming here, you're so happy because you got a stripe on your belt. A freaking stripe. I mean, listen, this is good and all because I do the same thing in my school, and my students are proud when they get that stripe on their belt.
Oh
But
man, that stripe is a great
yeah,
motivator.
yeah, yeah. It's a great motivator because you see you're coming up on that ladder. You can see it. Progress is happening. All right. And so what next? What next? What more am I going to learn? And so
Mm.
with that being said, we have these beliefs that are running through these different systems and misleading folks because it's a business model and they
Mm.
need to keep their students. Matter of fact, prime example, right? I've heard, all right, some people may feel some kind of way about me saying this. I've been hearing over and over with BJJ, all right, all these classical quotes they put up. I see it on BJJ fanatics. I see it all, and so everyone who's getting into martial arts, they look at this as these guys are gurus. Look at this quote. Look at what they're saying, and they don't even realize that these come from old koans from Japan. and they're just regurgitating this and making it seem, some of these folks are making it seem like it's just coming from their own mind.
Well, because in a lot of ways, and we'll end on this, but in a lot of ways, it it is being gleamed. Case in point, so they're talking about bringing leg backs to judo, leg grabs back to judo.
Okay.
I actually know guys who've trained in judo who don't even know leg grabs exist. That because they were in a combative school, they were in a sports school, that because Katagoroma, you couldn't grab legs. It was never taught to them, so they
Right.
never learned Katagoroma. They
Right.
didn't know Nagi no Kata, right?
Right.
So Tegoroma doesn't exist. Morotegari doesn't exist for them, and that's finding out that there's this whole set of leg grab techniques in judo is like, what?
Where did this come from?
What? That's new speak.
Yeah,
You know what
it's
I'm saying?
always been
Yeah,
there.
yeah. No, but that's the point. So, but to that individual, this is brand new. So
Yes.
when you see somebody or even hear somebody making a quote that was actually, you're like, oh, yeah, it's all been done. Stop it. It reminds me of our parents. Think
Yeah.
about it. Our
Yeah.
parents have made statements to us that, yeah, I know, and you're like, no, but this is new, and you're old, and you guys don't understand. But yeah, yeah, because even now, my youngest, there's
Uh-huh.
times where she's like, you don't understand, and I'm like, I'm chuckling, going, no, but I do understand. I've already lived it.
Yeah.
I'm one who's come before,
Right.
you know.
It's
So
crazy. You
yeah.
hear terms like slow is smooth and smooth is fast. You know who quoted that? You know
Mm.
where that quote came from? You know, so
But here's the thing, that person who gleams this, and and maybe they read it somewhere where in their mind it's new.
yeah, it's new and it came from their sensei.
Yeah.
So it
So
came
it
from him.
Master Sanchez, that's and you're like,
That's the best man right there.
yeah, and
He got
Master
words of
Sanchez,
wisdom.
yeah, he's a brilliant person.
Yeah.
All right, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are, oh well, shit, we're really past time. All right, well, look, we were live. If you were coming tomorrow, we look forward to seeing you.
Yes.
Right now, I look tired because I really am. Hopefully, I get enough sleep tonight. I'm excited for some red roast pizza. Love being back in the 413. It's always, listen, man, I'm from 413, baby. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? How we do.
Yes. Yes.
No, but I'm excited. Hopefully, I get some red roast pizza. I'm really excited for some red roast pizza today. And again, I'm with my partner in crime, Barakula Chidoshi.
And I'm with my partner here, Israel Lopez Sensei,
You've been listening to.
the Marshall
I was
Maze.
gonna do the peace and soul. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying, but I feel like somebody who, like in the Donnie Simpson might get upset with me.